Our journey through creation. Welcome, everyone. Martina and Charles are here to discuss our journey through creation, looking at our soul family, and the initial 48 fractals of creation from the ancestors and the creator's perspective. Let's start with cosmic perspective. According to scientists and their current measuring abilities, our universe is composed of 2 trillion galaxies. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is composed of 100 billion stars and planets. All of these celestial bodies are brimming with life in multiple dimensions. Martina and I consider it wise to look at the journey we have made through creation from the creators and the ancestors' perspectives, side by side. Let's start with the creator's perspective. Definitions. Martina, can you please place soul family, and fractals for us in cosmic perspective of creation?
Sure. Let me maybe start with saying what we are telling here today is relevant for everybody who runs around in a human body on this planet. You might have had numerous or multiple incarnations on planet Earth already, so you are an earthbound soul, or you are one of the many souls with an incarnated aspect just here for the first or second time to help with this huge transition. Okay, now back to creation from the creator's perspective. Just the sheer numbers you mentioned show that creation is vast. It's not just humans who are the big bosses. That's not true. So everything started from the creator with the divine plan that was based in light. And every soul that was created started with the initial 48 fractals, had as its core a spark of the divine. So that's the essence we all shared. And around that spark swirled a vortex of experiences. So over time, the soul became more knowledgeable, wiser, ever more balanced. If you look, for example, Volume 1 of the Chronicles of SANAT Kumara, I'm Ready, the main character, Lucia, her soul is shown. And you could see from the vortex around her divine spark, it's a very well-developed and balanced soul. Nevertheless, she's struggling while she's here. Now, a human soul is created by either one or two parent souls. What's the difference? The higher we develop, or the closer we are when we first created to the creator, the more likely is that we are on the path of a hermaphrodite. So we have divine feminine and divine masculine equally together in one soul. And that means if we are on the path of a hermaphrodite, it needs a single parent to create a soul. Whereas if you are lower down and you have a strong separation between divine feminine and divine masculine, it needs two parents to create a soul. All of creation started with the creator, and the creator has two aspects: the divine masculine, which we call the divine father, and the divine feminine, which we call the cosmic mother. They together, as the creator, created 48 fractals. A fractal is a geometric shape with self-similarity. So basically, the small 48 are a copy of the creator, but with a specialization. In order to enter into the void, to breathe out a symphony, a divine plan. And all of these fractals started to create according to their section of the plan. That means going back to the 1 trillion, to the 2 trillion galaxies, and in our galaxy, 100 billion just stars brimming with life in multiple dimensions. What has been created since the first creation? And we are going back to the first universe that's counted as 0, and thereafter 32. So we are in the 33rd universe.
Okay.
It's just mind-blowing what kind of species and people there are. A human soul is part of a human family. And a human family is part of larger groups, like a soul neighborhood and a soul community. And we as a soul have 2 things to accomplish. There's personal learning, and there is a mission to contribute to the mission of the place where we are. So our soul has a double mission, at least, but also our soul family and community has a mission to contribute. And we are part of that. And karma is balanced on soul family level. That means whatever karma we create, our soul family is helping us to balance it out either way. Now we have a spiritual development in 2 directions. First of all, from the initial creations of the 48, it's kind of trickling down and it's getting ever larger and ever more complex. Okay. We are still in this creation in the breathing out process. Yes. And now, since recently, that process has shifted. The creator has gathered enough knowledge and learning through us and accomplishment that the breathing in has started again. And interestingly enough, breathing in, we don't walk this path alone either. We go back into, as an individual, into ever larger groups of consciousness on the way back to the creator. Unfortunately, something went wrong with the initial 48 fractals. Our audience probably heard about that. Yes. There were 12 of the 48 who said, yeah, we know better and we do our own stuff, so to speak, and they started their own parallel dark universe. In this, and followed by many other universes. But because they said we do our own thing, they were outside of the divine plan, they were outside of the light. So their creations doesn't have a spark of the creator, there's no light, and they can't sustain themselves. So they are praying, using, abusing the whole of creation for a number of universes. And the same was true for us. So the dark matrix created here, that was abusing people. What is happening now is, because of the shift, and since the beginning of the year, we are in the 5th dimension already, we start to see that. Many, many people start to see that, realize it, see that through, and say, but how do we get back? The back is a way of unity, working in ever larger groups, but also getting to know these pathways back. So the humans don't go alone. The humans do go together, evolve with the devas. Yeah. And the devas have learned, you can't trust these guys. They enslave us, they abuse us. Mm-hmm. So there is coming back together with the devas and then develop together. There is a double pass for the Konri and the Oblan who run the cosmic communication system together. But there are also other, so to speak, life forms which we have never heard about. There are the Noran and the Sketon who evolved together. There are the Nesbao and the Tolesan that evolved together. So we can look forward to getting to know this.
Yeah.
So we are going in ever larger spiritual growth segments until our consciousness becomes big enough to really be able to reunite with the Creator. And we are in the U-turn process, and that requires unity, and that's why it was required that unity started here on Earth. Darkness was reintegrated into the light. Also, two other groups of 8 each, the Free Folk and the Exotronos, who had trotted their own paths, they have reintegrated again. So we are ready to walk together. But so that's a handful and a mouthful. Charles, please tell the view of creation from the perspective of the ancestry spirits. How did they see that? How do they tell the story?
Yes, that's interesting, Martina, what you have recounted about the soul journey, the breathing out, and now the breathing in. That's exciting. The ancestors are on the spirit side, and of course, they want to talk about silence and sound as the creators of the visible world. The sound that we all know, the Om sound and the reverberating Om sound. So these are waves of energies, and to them, that is the cosmic soup of energy that sparked life within the void. So they see the void not as emptiness, but a time of resting and understanding, as you have just discussed, the in-breath time. Resting from a previously ended universe, learning from the experiences gathered, and planning for the new adventures of the new universe. So this is how the ancestors see wisdom. Wisdom is this integrated knowledge from all possible experiences that has been learned by the universe. And then the universe can burst forth with a new sound, the creation. And then things begin to happen from air, then the fire and the sun gets created. So the fire has the quality of light. Light emerges as a wave. From light, then there is the water, and this spirit sees this as the beginning. The waving water or the Holy Spirit is within that void. It is the intelligence of knowing, one who receives primal love. This primal love energy is the fire within the soul, is the point of origin of everything as the ancestors see it. And this is the anchor, the place where everything, oneness comes together. So everything proceeded from the primordial spark, the great ancestor or God. The first fractals, previously 48, now are 36, as you described. The avatars and others that arise from creation, depending on whether they are androgynous, combining the female and the male, or whether they are parts that need to have another part, they are specialized as feminine or masculine energy. So this whole creative intelligence brings forth all the physical creation of nature that we see. And the ancestors insist that honoring ancestors will maintain continuity with the creators, even with the divine eternal source or God. So Amaya, our earth mother, says that beauty is also now returning back to earth and that she's being rejuvenated again because people will now come back into their creative unity and begin to produce a more sustainable result than what was obtained on Mars when Mars was not able to come together and continue on with a vibrant and buoyant universe. So, Martina, now we've talked about the overall creation process. Please, can you talk more about your own soul's journey and the lessons of your soul and the creations and what wisdom has been garnered?
Let me mention two things. Biggest reveals I had. The first was to understand that everything that exists has a soul, save for the ones who were created by the primevals in the dark universe. So
Right.
everything has a soul, every pebble, every tree, every leaf. And that my time in Japan, where Shintoism, the belief in life, everywhere is life, helped me enormously. And also when I'm out and about, I greet a tree as a brother, knowing that this tree has a soul. It's just coming here in the Northern Hemisphere from the Aldebaran people. And that has helped me to be recognized by these other life forms as someone trustworthy. So really moving away from the thought that anything here on earth is without life is vital. Then the journey of figuring out who I am, who my soul is, and to contact my soul, that was a bumpy road. Why? Initially, you look up to people who seem to be able to communicate with your soul.
Yeah.
And they tell you who you are and where you originate from and what your past life has been. And it turned out that all of that I received of information was just false. And it took some time until that sank through, until I realized, wait a minute. Now, each of us has a soul, and that's the most sacred part that connects us with the Creator, each and every one of us. And this soul is shy and it whispers. That's the most.
Yeah.
So, why should the soul, your own soul, give away information about you to anyone save yourself? Very funny when I talk to people or people write emails to me and tell me, look, I've moved on my path. And by the way, I had so many lives and I was a priestess here and I was a priestess there in Atlantis and in Lemuria. Interestingly enough, they were all priests and priestesses, not knowing the multiple other forms of scientists, those who were caretakers of crystals. They were all priests and priestesses. And that tells me a lot that the person who is giving that information has the best intentions, but very limited knowledge, and for sure, not access to your soul.
Yes.
The person might have good access to the Akashic records and get glimpses and is interpreting that. But for sure, the soul wants to talk to you and not anybody else. So I recommend everyone what you have learned about yourself. I was been told so many things about past incarnations. None of that turned out true. I'm a first timer on Earth. I struggle with certain things on Earth that just don't fit my experience. But what I've been told in the past was simply wrong because the person who was telling it didn't know otherwise.
Yeah.
So, my message, personal experience, be careful, don't solicit information on your soul from other people. Build the relationship yourself. The 12-strand sun diamond DNA allows for that easily now.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's very well, Martina. Thank you for sharing this information.
What, Charles, how do you see the primordial soul journey? And can you share that from both a story perspective, but also a personal perspective?
Well, yes, it's a little bit hard, but I'll try here. The, the universe needs to do something. There's so much energy, there's so much wisdom, so many things learned during one universe outbreak and inbreak when everything is consolidated and brought down to rest. So now you are at rest. It's like after a long vacation, you really want to get back into something.
Mm.
And then a question is asked, what next? Are we just going to sit here? And then that answer opens up a can of worms that leads to a universe of many activities and plans. So it's actually a joy to be in the experiencing of universes, activities, and learning. And as we also enjoy vacation, it's also a joy to have the time for inbreathing and resting and knowing. So this cycle is the cycle of the universes, is the cycle of the galaxies, the star systems, and everything that we see that goes in cycle. So that's a brief a brief thought on how the ancestors will summarize this. But for as you discussed earlier in my own experience, you wanted to know about practical experience. So I have had a lot of dream journey and meditative journeys and had those experiences. But once I acquired the skills that we have presented last week or the week before to our listeners, it was able for me to now to get into my Akashic record, and that is my wonderland. The the books that have come out in rapid successions have really come out from the Akashic record world because that's where I'm able to be open to learn, to communicate, and to ask questions and receive answers. So that's how I've known so much about myself. And when the soul gives you your information, you can trust it. Most times, you know, you feel it already that it is true. It really didn't need somebody else to confirm it for you.
Yeah.
So to get aid when you are beginning is good, just to show you that you have other dimensions. But to really know yourself as much as you would want to know yourself, being able to get into the records, the Akashic and the cosmic records by yourself is the primary key that is guaranteed to give you the truth that you are seeking.
And would you dare to share a bit? What's your you mentioned previously that you're from the Cygnus constellation, so your soul has been created in the Cygnus constellation, the constellation of the Swan.
Yes.
What else did you find out about yourself?
Well, I found out also the fractal from which I was directly created from.
Okay,
And
I don't ask you to share that. That's rather
no,
personal.
yes. Now, I'm not going to share it, but what I want to show is that the mission of this fractal for the divine plan is exactly what perfectly fits my soul. And that's how I have lived my life. And to just really discover that was confirmation beyond anything I can describe. So that's an example of knowing yourself fully and being comfortable in your own role within the divine plan.
Super. I
Yeah.
think we'll wrap up here for today and we'll open up the topic next week when we talk about how to balance a life in the third dimension where you have to have your 2 feet firmly on the ground with the higher dimensional life that is opening up now. How do we go about doing that and balancing that out? Charles, thanks a lot. It was great talking to you again.
Yes, Martina, thank you for a wonderful conversation, and see you next week, everyone.
See you next week, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.